Welcome back, folks, to Embrace the Grind. Now that the inaugural XFL season has come to an end due to COVID-19, I thought it was a good time to take a look at the presumable league MVP's backstory, PJ Walker. Before we get into this, folks, please remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again, Nick Murata, for your music. Check him out at Nick the Guitar Guy 80 on Instagram. Phillip Walker, aka PJ Walker, was born on February 26, 1995 in New Jersey. He attended Elizabeth High School, where he threw for 2,168 yards and 18 touchdowns with a 63.5% completion percentage during his junior year. Coming out of high school, he measured out to be 5'11", 216 pounds, and ran a 4.74 40-yard dash. He was a 3-star recruit by ESPN, 24/7 Sports, and Rivals. ESPN ranked him as the 33rd ranked pocket passer in the class that included Christian Hackenberg and Jared Goff as pocket passers, as well as Josh Dobbs, Mitchell Trubisky, JT Barrett, and John Franklin as dual threat quarterbacks. Walker had offers from East Carolina, Rutgers, Toledo, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Temple. Walker decided to commit to Temple to play under Matt Rule, who was the head coach at the time. During Walker's freshman year, Temple went 2-10, going 1-7 in conference, which was last in the American Conference. Walker played in 9 games where he completed 60.8% of his passes on 250 attempts. He threw for 2,084 yards for 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He also rushed for an additional 332 yards on 90 attempts, which resulted in 3 touchdowns. In Walker's sophomore campaign, Temple improved to 6-6, going 4-4 in conference, which resulted finishing 6th in the American Conference. Although Temple took a step forward, it seemed like Walker took a step back. He completed 53.3% of his passes on 381 pass attempts in 12 games. He threw for 2,317 yards, resulting in 13 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. He had an additional 324 yards on 106 attempts for an additional 3 touchdowns on the ground. During Walker's junior year, Temple went 10-4, going 7-1 in conference, finishing first in the East Division. Walker played in 14 games and completed 56.7% of his passes on 432 attempts. He improved from his sophomore year, throwing for 2,972 yards, resulting in 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He added an additional 215 yards on the ground on 80 attempts and 2 touchdowns. Walker led Temple to the American Athletic Conference Championship game against Houston, where they lost 24-13. During the game, Walker threw for 236 yards and an interception while completing 23 passes on 42 attempts. After the AAC Championship game, Walker and Temple played Toledo in the Boca Raton Bowl, where they lost 32-17. Walker threw for 287 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, while completing 26 of his 44 pass attempts. In 2016, during Walker's senior season, Temple went 10-4, finishing 7-1 in conference once again. Walker played in 14 games where he threw for 3,295 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, while completing 58.2% of his passes on 395 attempts. During 2016, Temple lost to Penn State 34-27 in Happy Valley. Walker threw for 286 yards on 34 attempts, completing 25 passes, an interception, as well as a rushing touchdown. Walker led Temple to the American Athletic Championship game for a second year in a row, where they defeated Navy in Annapolis 34-10. This was the first conference title for Temple in 49 years. Temple lost to Wake Forest in the Military Bowl in Annapolis once again, 34-26. Walker threw for 396 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception on 49 attempts, completing 28 passes. Walker's lone interception was on a tip pass, which led to a Wake Forest score, putting them up 31-7. Walker led a major comeback in the second half, which would fall short after Walker dislocated his knuckle. Walker left Temple as the all-time leader in passing yards with 10,668 yards. He also holds the record for all-time wins at Temple with 28 wins, passing touchdowns with 74 touchdowns, completions with 830 completions, attempts with 1,458 attempts, and total yards with 11,478 total yards, according to Sports Reference and Temple's athletic site. He also is the first quarterback in school history to lead Temple to back-to-back bowl games. Walker entered the 2017 NFL Draft as the 23rd rated quarterback in the class, according to ESPN. The 2017 NFL Draft included notable names such as Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Taysom Hill. Walker measured out as 5'11 and a fourth inch and 214 pounds at his pro day, running a 4.73 40-yard dash, according to ESPN. Walker was not invited to the NFL Combine and went undrafted. Walker signed with the Indianapolis Colts as an undrafted free agent. The Colts signed and released Walker multiple times. Walker spent time on the practice squad and signed multiple future reserve contracts with the Colts. Walker turned down the opportunity to play in the AAF because he wanted to spend as much time as possible on an NFL roster. When the Colts released him in September of 2019, Walker decided to sign in the XFL. During Walker's time with the Colts, he spent a lot of time learning from Andrew Luck and Jacoby Brissett. Oliver Luck, Andrew Luck's father, just so happened to be the commissioner of the XFL, and after having a son in his ear, decided to give Walker a chance. Walker was designated to the Houston Roughnecks. Head coach June Jones and quarterback P.J. Walker seemed like a match made in heaven, although Walker was not given the starting role right off the bat. Walker had to beat out former Michigan State quarterback Connor Cook. Walker won the job and started the season opener against the Los Angeles Wildcats. Houston beat Los Angeles 37-17 behind the arm of Walker. Walker completed 23 of his 38 pass attempts for 272 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. In Week 2, Houston beat the St. Louis Battlehawks 28-24. Walker completed 20 of his 31 passes for 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. In Week 3, Houston beat the Tampa Bay Vipers 34-27. Walker completed 24 of his 36 attempts for 306 yards and 4 total touchdowns. Houston battled Dallas in the Battle of Texas in Week 4 and came out on top, winning 27-20. Walker completed 25 of his 41 attempts for 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Houston defeated Seattle 32-23, which ended in controversy during Week 5. Walker completed 27 of his 38 attempts for 351 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Houston led the league in wins, being 5-0 and the only undefeated team. The XFL season was then suspended halfway through the season, like every other sport, due to COVID-19. Walker finished his inaugural season with 1,338 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, completing 64.7% of his passes. Walker averaged 267.6 yards per game, 3 touchdowns per game, and 0.8 interceptions per game. Walker looked like the favorite to win the XFL MVP award and credited his success to Jacoby Brissett and Andrew Luck. With the XFL allowing players to negotiate with NFL teams, it looks like we will not get to see P.J. Walker in a Houston Roughnecks jersey again. But the XFL will be returning for a second season in 2021.